If time management worked, you'd already be better. You don't have a time problem, you have an energy problem. You see, high performers, they don't lack discipline, they lack recovery, oftentimes being focused more on the outcome, no matter the cost. So, no matter the cost to their physical health, no matter the cost to their relationships and family, they're just completely focused on the outcome. Now, in the first video, we talked about why you might be burning out. And if you haven't watched that, I encourage you to go back and watch it. Today's video is going to focus on taking that a step further because exhaustion changes how time is experienced and managed. You see, there's myths about time management. Time management or time is fixed. We can't change time. It goes and moves as it does. It is clockwork, right? But it's the capacity that can change. So the more exhausted you feel, the more your time awareness shifts. And what this means is for a lot of people, the more they're exhausted, time can feel like it's going slower. And then you feel like you're trying to fill more time, which can make you more exhausted. And I think the other can be true, where some people feel like they don't have enough time, and that's because they're exhausted, right? So it just depends on how that's really impacting your brain. But I want you to think about when we talk about time being fixed, right? It comes with common productivity advice that doesn't always work because common productivity advice is based on your nervous system being regulated. And if you're exhausted and you're burnt out, your nervous system is not regulating. It is functioning in survival mode, which means everything is urgent. And so we want to create systems that are designed for people who are not regulated, right? So that we can get regulated because most of those systems that are already out there are designed for the people who are well rested. But when you're exhausted, those efficiency tools will actually increase your pressure, not relieve it. And planning harder won't fix your bandwidth. You can't create more time. I hear it all the time. I'll just sleep longer. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Sure, but that probably means that'll happen sooner. And so we can't always just create more time. We just have to adjust how we utilize our time and change our systems in order to increase our bandwidth because we don't want to function with depleted bandwidths, and planning harder won't do that. And so the more you're exhausted you are, you're going to notice these shifts to your brain, which typically look like focus. So chronic stress impairs focus, right? So again, I mentioned if you are in survival mode, your body and your brain is only focused on how do I get through this urgent situation in front of me so that I can be safe? Because your nervous system does not identify between a real threat and a perceived threat. And I have other videos on that. But today, as far as time and how that stress and burnout changes your brain, right? So if you're focused on that urgent, you're not focused on the detail. Memory actually can get impaired if you've been functioning in this state too long and you are just depleted of your energy and your reserves. It can make it difficult to prioritize because that clarity of what each project or each task entails is not fully there, right? You just see projects on a page, but your brain can't quite grasp all those little details that go with it. When you're exhausted, ability to make decisions also slows down, right? Every part of your being is starting to function a little bit slower. And so it can take you an extra couple minutes to make a decision because you're trying to process through all those little pieces that you used to be able to process through just like that. And so because everything feels urgent, everything else is harder. We also know that task switching becomes costly and draining. So most people think, oh, I can multitask. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. But your brain can't focus on multiple tasks at one time. It focuses on one at a time. So when we jump from one task to the other, that's where we're task switching. And this can be exhausting because your brain is designed to have a little bit of downtime in between tasks so it can finish clearing out what you were just doing before it shifts to the next. So just be cautious that constantly jumping one to the next is exhausting in itself. Procrastination, that can often be due to fatigue, not necessarily avoidance, right? It's a matter of, do you have the energy to do that task? There's typically a reason we procrastinate. We don't procrastinate just to avoid. Now, okay, sometimes I guess we do, right? And I would say, yeah, once in a while. But it's really, I think, more than just plain avoidance. It can be, I just don't think I'm ready to look at that yet, right? I just don't have the bandwidth or the mental capacity or the energy to look at that part right now. It feels too daunting. Those are all reasons to avoid. It's not just pure avoidance. Maybe you're feeling disorganized, and that's because neurologically, you're just overloaded. Disorganization comes from mentally being overloaded. Emotionally overloaded can also impact that as well. And so, as high performers, we do have this tendency to um, push through and double down. And when this happens, your response to stress is different. So a lot of high performers will respond to stress by tightening up their control, right? Which means I'm going to try to create more lists. I'm going to create more structure. I'm going to put more pressure on my team, maybe on myself, because I want to have more control. And oftentimes, the tighter we try and control, the less control we actually have. I think it's a misperception because we can't control every single factor in every single situation, but we think we can. We have this false perception that if I create more structure, that means I control every piece of the outcome, and we just can't do that. But that increases the stress, right? Rest, on the other hand, is often postponed until things calm down. I've heard that a lot. I'll rest when things calm down, but I hate to tell you, they never do. I've experienced that in multiple leadership roles. Okay, I'll rest when this situation calms down. Well, guess what? Another crisis situation started before that first one calmed down. There is no when it's calm. Life has things going on. Business has things going on. So the perception of when it calms down is a negative one, and we need to shift that script. When our outputs stay high, our internal reserves will collapse. So this can often create an illusion that the system you have created or you're working in is working, but it's not. Because our internal reserves, when they collapse, the output we have decreases, it declines, right? First video, we talked about performance. This is what we're talking about. We have to maintain those internal reserves and not let them collapse, because then our performance, our success, we can sustain that when we're taking care of those internal reserves. So this illusion, right, that the system is working until it doesn't, is really becomes reality when your body collapses. Now you might be saying, I don't think my body's going to collapse, but mine did. I could not walk 100 feet, and I could trace it directly to burnout and stress. And that's because I was doing a lot of the stuff that I'm sharing with you in these videos. I was pushing through. I was focused more on the outcome and not on my internal reserves. And so I want you to know that stress changes how your body functions, right? Because all that energy goes to that survival mode. And when your body is in survival mode, your digestion shuts off. Some people will overeat. but your body does not digest food the right way, which means there's more adrenaline and cortisol running through your body, which means faster heart rate. Heart issues develop. So your body will collapse if you don't create a new system. And I really don't want to see anybody else collapse because that's not fun and it's a longer road to recover from. And so as we talk about how to work on this, right? Let's first talk about what are some of the hidden costs of trying to manage time. So it's this constant urgency that keeps your nervous system in overdrive, right? The more we think, oh, I only have 5 minutes instead of I have 20. Again, that's a perception thing, but it really plays into putting your nervous system into overdrive because if you feel like and you believe you don't have enough time, your nervous system shoots up, your stress level shoots up, and then you're just kind of in this urgent mode, and that's really hard. Recovery can also become inefficient or impossible when your nervous system is constantly in this state of urgency, or we think we don't have time to make space for the recovery. Oftentimes, free time feels unproductive or unsatisfying, and I hear that a lot. But meditating is not fun. It's not satisfying, and I don't enjoy it. Yep, you probably don't. And I get that, right? And so when we talk about rest and recovery in future videos, we're not necessarily talking about meditation because that has a place and it's for some people, but it's not for everybody. So it looks different. And sometimes we just have to look at free time differently, but we often feel like free time is unproductive, right? You sit there and it's like, I'm chomping at the bit because I need to do something else. Burnout also accelerates under the guise of optimism, meaning if we're very optimistic and, oh, I can get that done, that's not a problem. I have enough time. Burnout symptoms are going to accelerate. Sometimes we need to come back to reality and go, what's going on with me? Check in with yourself and with your body. Because you can't optimize a depleted system. And remember, the system we're talking about is your whole person, spirit, soul, body, and how you function. And so I want you to think about, we want to focus on capacity first and time second. Again, right? We can't change time. It's constant. It moves at the rate it moves, but we can work on that capacity first. And so to do that, I want you to think about sustainable performance starts with nervous system regulation. We want to regulate our nervous system. We want to be in that parasympathetic nervous system. So we're functioning from a place of calm and rest, not alert and danger. And that's a big key when we want to increase our capacity. We want to be able to increase energy, clarity, and focus because these are renewable. We can renew our energy. We can renew our ability to focus or make clear decisions. But again, we can't take back time. We will never recover time. 5 minutes ago was 5 minutes ago, and it's gone. So you don't necessarily need a better planner. You just need better inputs, right? Better ways of helping yourself, better ways of creating that energy and minimizing the depletion. Our capacity expands when we address the stress at the root cause. So I've done videos, I've done workshops, I've done trainings on stress management, and those are all important because those are key in getting a handle on your nervous system first. But you also have to get to that root cause of why did I get burnt out? Why did this cycle, this hidden loop we talked about, start? And that's where the strategic shift versus just mindset tweaks comes in. So if time management tools are not helping, that's a signal that you're overstressed and you're probably getting burnt out. Because burnout shows up as brain fog, chronic overwhelm, reduced focus despite efforts, and for some who are extremely burnt out, it also shows up in detachment and depersonalization from their job. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing anymore. They've lost connection to that purpose. So I want to invite you to take the burnout assessment at burnoutbasics.com. I'll also drop the link in the show notes. But I want you to think about that as your first step, right? We talked about in the first video, getting that awareness. This assessment is going to help you get that awareness, because insight isn't failure. Insight is going to help you grow. It's going to help you become the best version of yourself. And the assessment helps you understand where exhaustion is limiting your capacity. So even if your calendar looks organized, let's figure out where that energy depletion is coming from. Because awareness explains why those old tools stop working. So if you've ever had old tools that help with your time management and you're like, but that's always worked before, well, this is why. So let's look at why those aren't working. Let's work on creating space to focus on restoring that capacity, so you have that energy and feel of, I can do this, I can thrive, it's okay. So wherever you're at, know that you can rebuild energy and cognitive clarity. If those are your goals, wonderful, you can do it. Let's do it. You can work with your system and not against it, because I've seen a lot of people, they get disconnected from their body, which is why their nervous systems are dysregulated. So let's get that working back together, get you back to your whole person, so that you can create that sustainable performance and rhythms that have always worked for you in the past. Because I think once we work through some root causes, we have that awareness through the assessment, you're gonna see those time management techniques you used to use, they're going to come back and start working. They just might need a few tweaks, because it's about functioning better, not just living and not just trying to get through the day. And so remember, you can't manage time effectively when you're exhausted. And productivity without capacity is a losing strategy. So be sure to start with the burnout assessment, because no system works when the system running is depleted.